Entrepreneurs, welcome. We are with Dr. Alex today, and Dr. Alex is actually the owner of DEXA scan company who will be taking the scans in our auditing phase of the program. And I brought in doctors because of obviously how amazing they are in their field, and I just can't take you that far on a biological genetic level, but it's so important that we know every single man on a genetic level so we can give them the right care. And our doc here is going to give you even more information of why a DEXA scan is so important. So, Dr. Alex, what actually is a DEXA scan?
So DEXA scan, essentially it's a full body scan. You can see it behind you. Lie on the bed. It takes about 7 minutes, and this arm here passes over the top of you. And what it does is it shoots a really small dose of X-ray, about 10% of what you'd get if you went to a hospital and had an X-ray. And we get a really clear idea of your bone density, your muscle mass, and your fat levels. Really important, because a lot of people don't realise that you can have fat that's internal that you don't know about, called visceral fat. And if that's a high level, it can do lots of things. It can affect your energy levels. It can increase your risks of heart problems in the future. And the main thing is it's something that you can actually do something about. So if you know about this, you've now given yourself years to actually work on this problem before it starts causing you problems in the future. Things like muscle mass, knowing where you are compared to other people your age gives you the idea that you can actually, if you're low muscle, you can work on it. If you're high muscle, you can maintain it. All the things that are important. So as you get older and older, when your muscle naturally starts to taper off, you can check, you're always going to lose muscle as you get older, but am I keeping it at a decent level? So when I get to 70, 80 years old, I can still do all the things that I want to do instead of being, having to reduce my lifestyle for things like that.
I think that's really important for men in business, that they are building empires and building these successful businesses to be able to outlive what they are building, right? Because you don't really want to be building something special to get to 60, 70, 80 to be in a really detriment of physical health. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. And the other thing as well is, like, building a business takes a long time. So if if your business might take 10, 15 years to really get to the top level, you need to stay healthy through that. You don't want your body to be deteriorating throughout that 10 to 15 year time. So being able to monitor that and actually pick up on that deterioration before it becomes a problem just gives you the opportunity to make those slight interventions earlier, so that you can actually continue to perform in 5 years time, in 10 years time. Maybe you sell your business and now you're actually healthy enough that you can enjoy it, for the decades to come once you've retired, that kind of thing.
This guy's better than me. Can I hire you?
Not sure about that.
No, but I think the way medicine's changing, also the way you're obviously so passionate about building and being able to sustain it. But bringing it back to visceral fat, that's obviously the fat around our organs we can't see, right? Yeah. So if an entrepreneur and man in business has got high body fat, that also means he's got high visceral fat. Is that right?
Not necessarily, and that's
wow, okay.
And that's what's interesting, is you can look quite slim potentially, but you've actually got a high level of visceral fat because it's internal. You could do the pinch test that everyone does and think, oh, I'm okay, but you do the scan and you realise maybe I'm in the orange or the red levels. And visceral fat, tends to be affected by things like poor sleep, stress levels, just as much as diet. It's the type of thing where you can go your whole life, you can think you're healthy, but you're not necessarily healthy. And like you said, in business, you're often working long hours, you might be eating out quite a lot, that kind of stuff. It's the type of thing where if you don't know it's there, you may never find out. So that's why the DEXAs are useful, because they give you that. Firstly, you might find out, actually, my visceral fat level is good now, so if I just maintain my lifestyle, that's good. But equally, if you find out it's not great, like I said before, you're finding out much sooner than you would. Most people only find this stuff out when they get unwell. But what we want to do is help people find out before they get unwell so that they can do something about it and ideally not get unwell.
So what does unwell look like? You leave the visceral fat, you leave it unattended, you don't give it no attention, you don't get tested. What happens over the course of years, and even, like you said yourself, even decades of high performer men, entrepreneurs, not giving it the attention it needs? What can this actually cause on a health level from yourself as a doctor?
In the like more short to medium term, you're looking at things like energy levels, which I think is obviously really important, you know, for performance. In the more long term, you're increasing your risk of pretty much all the kind of cardiovascular diseases, things like heart attacks, strokes, the type of thing that you'll find 1 minute, suddenly you've had a heart attack and that's it, you know. If you survive it, your life's completely changed. So it's those type of conditions that it just puts your risk factors up for. And then you've got other kind of metabolic things like diabetes, like later down the line, all of which, if you do lifestyle interventions much earlier, you can like significantly lower your risk for, and like actually stop that stroke from ever happening, stop that heart attack from ever happening, because you picked up on it when you were like 40, 50, 60, instead of finding out about that you are at risk when you're 60, 70, and then, you know, it happens.
Would you say for men in business who have been under decades of stress, decades of output, just having a central nervous system what's constantly always switched on, they're not training, they're not looking after themselves, would you say they're at much higher risk of strokes, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, internal inflammation? Is this something?
I mean, it's one of those things where we know that high stress increases your risk of long-term heart attacks. Poor sleep also increases that. All of the things that you're describing put your stress levels up, ruin your sleep. They cause you to eat poorly. You know, if your mental health is suffering, we've all been there. You're much less likely to cook yourself a nice meal if you're depressed. You have to kind of get on top of all of this, and it has that kind of holistic effect on your entire life, because it is all connected, isn't it? You can't just, like you said, you push really hard for your business, you grow your business really well, but if you then cause your health to suffer, or your physical or your mental health to suffer, it's like, what's it all for? You know, there's no point pushing really hard, having success in one area, but then your health suffers, so you can't enjoy it. You know, you don't want to be like 70 years old and think, well, I wish I hadn't pushed so hard with the business, but actually I'd pushed on my fitness more, and then I could go and like climb a mountain, instead of like, oh, I've done really well, I've got this money in the bank, but I'm sat at home and I get out of breath when I go up the stairs. Is that type of like thinking, getting that balance, I think.
Well, it's even like not even being able to pick up your grandkids, not even to pick up your children. Like, men are coming through the doors on a daily basis who are having heart palpitations, they're having tight chest, there's chronic migraines, and but they're saying they're eating well, but they're going to the gym, but that's all external, right? Yeah. And I also really want to point out there the way Dr. Alex even has just admitted himself so openly, we've all been there with mental health, and I can also second that. He's an entrepreneur, he's a doctor. Men, we have all been there. There is nothing wrong in admitting that your current situation right now may not be the best, and you're not treating your body the best it's ever been, and you don't see yourself as this high performer man or this amazing entrepreneur, but that's absolutely okay, right? Because, like, thank you for that. We've all been there. Men, I've been there, Dr. Alex has been there, but this is a lifestyle, holistic, all in one like scenario, isn't it? Because if you don't feel great, you've got no energy to cook yourself a nice meal. If you don't feel great, you're going to have no energy to exercise. And if you don't feel great, you're definitely not going to have energy for your family. And then if you don't feel great, your business is only going to get minimum results.
Yeah, it's a long-term...
Can you agree with that?
100%. It's a long-term thing. Like, I don't know about you, but I'll go through phases where I feel great. Yeah. And then I actually don't have the discipline then to kind of make sure I keep the balance. Because I'll be like, right, I actually feel good, so I'm just going to push harder and harder. And, you know, we started Telomics last year, and, like, you know, these things are all encompassing. They can take over. But I've got young kids, I've got a wife, you know, I try to take care of myself health-wise and, you know, mental and physical. But when things are going well, you can almost lose that discipline. You can, like, forget, well, actually, I still need to make sure I pick my kids up. I still need to make sure I get to the gym, even though I feel good, because it's easy. You think you can push, this is the time to push hard, but actually if you push too hard and you overdo it, then it all collapses, doesn't it? And then suddenly you're tired, and you're worse around your kids, or you're worse around your partner, and then the business suffers. So it all just goes round and round. I call it the
pressure cooker. I say to men, you're like a pressure cooker, internally. And, you know, this is where there's no ego with me here anymore, men, and where I've learned massively as a coach. Once upon a time, I would have wanted men to come in and be like a professional athlete like I once was and push them and push them and push them. But that was from my own childhood trauma. That was from my insecurities. And the message I want to get across to men now is that wherever you are at, it is changeable, you know? That without putting yourself first, which you've just touched on a lot, that you haven't put yourself first, and sometimes with children, with the business, it is hard to put yourself first. But looking after your sleep, simple nutrition, consistency, and even me now, I'm telling men to just train 2 times a week, 3 times a week, getting steps in, getting fresh air. The longer I do this, it's actually more about stripping it back to simplicity instead of, like yourself said, more. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. And that's, I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do with, you know, the body scans. It's like, actually, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Like, ultimately, everyone knows that if you put on more muscle, it's good for your health. If you keep your fat at a healthy level, that's going to be good for your health. You don't have to go much further than that. So really, it's just about knowing. We provide these tests to just kind of show where you are, and then if you go, when we like tend to retest people like at 6 months or a year, often they haven't done a crazy diet or a crazy workout. They've just been consistent. They've just said, right, I can fit 2 sessions a week into my life, or I can fit 3 sessions a week into the life. 6 months down the line, you can see the benefit. Wow. You don't have to go like 7 days a week, because unless you are a professional athlete and that's your job, you know, no one has time to do that kind of stuff. You just have to fit it around your life and be consistent.
I've actually found that the reason why entrepreneurs fall off or say they don't have time is because they do try and go all in. They have a business, they have a family, and then they go all in for the week. They completely crumble. They just smash the house down. And what happens is, then you say you can't do it, you don't have time, you're not the guy who's ever going to be fit. And unfortunately, with that identity, the diseases later on will come. And now my message is getting men performing on all pillars on a consistent level. That if we just really bring it back to basics, and we are consistent, and we just do take time to put ourselves first, adding years to your life and disease prevention, you will hopefully agree, is very, very possible.
I would say 100%. I mean, even if you're better off doing, say, 1 workout a week every week, instead of trying to do 7 a week and then, like you said, crumbling and then not working out for 3 months because you think you failed. Like, in the long term, if you went the whole year and you worked out once a week, instead of if you did an intense 3 months and then nothing because everything's fallen apart, you're in a much better position by just, you know, dialing it back a bit, doing something that's realistic, but just then keep making it a habit.
Funny enough as well, it's actually a central nervous system thing. You know, when you're always in fight or flight, and your central nervous system reacts to patterns. If you are somebody who is always on the go 24/7, putting that foot on the accelerator is all your central nervous system knows. So you do try and go all in, and then you crash. But the chaos is just familiar, and I know that more than absolutely anybody, because that's what I done. I went all in as a professional athlete, and in the end, my whole system completely collapsed. So regarding the central nervous system and the men in business, what do you think they need to look after most? What are the effects of them not looking after it, and if they do leave it too late?
Well, I think with the central nervous system stuff, like, you know, ultimately, the more stressed you are, the more in that fight and flight, the higher your cortisol levels, then from a purely kind of medical thing, that increases your risk of so many different diseases. Like we talked about, it being increased risk of the visceral fat also, but everything really, if you lived a highly stressed life and it's continual, then it is always going to increase your risk of stuff. I mean, stress is good and can be utilised and in certain periods, but if you don't want to be in a position where you're just constantly fight and flight, that should be for those moments when it's useful to be like that. But if you're always like that, you know that your heart rate, you can just see it in the stress. You can see the heart rate's gone up, you know. You
can see it in the face.
Literally, yeah. And you know, you're not going to sleep as well. So that is, everything is connected. It all kind of knocks on to the other issues in your life. You'll have worse relationships because, you know, if you're stressed, you're not going to have a great time with your partner or your friends. You're not going to want to talk to them, or you're not going to relax. It all just adds together and then puts you in this state where you don't live a great life, you don't perform, and then in the long term you've increased your risks of like lots of different diseases basically.
The feminine woman as well, also the feminine and masculine. The feminine feels from energy, she feels from your presence. So if you are a man in business, you're always on and you're wondering if you are doing damage to your family, you actually don't have to say a word. They feel it. Your children feel it. Your wife feels it, and then she doesn't feel safe in your presence. Then that's how relationship problems can come in. That's why, again, I bring it back to you have to look after yourself first. Then everything follows. Because only when you're your best self, the business is its best self. Only when you're your best self, you can be the best father. And when you're your best self, then you can give yourself what you need as the man and as the leader, as the whole of the empire, right?
I definitely find that when I am stressed, I'm not as good a dad. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt. When I'm like pushing too hard, I make worse decisions. So business, any form of decision really. So it's just it's a constant battle, isn't it? To kind of like not allow yourself. If you're the type of person, and most people who run businesses are, you do naturally want to push hard. So you almost don't have an issue with not. You can be the type of person who struggles to push yourself, but if you are someone who naturally pushes yourself, you almost have to prevent that to a degree and make sure it doesn't cause problems. Like make sure you actually push hard enough to get your life to move in the direction that you want it, but not push so bad that you just fall, everything collapses, as you said before.
It's that trying to always get it constantly right. And by the way, brothers, this podcast was not planned at all, and how open the doc is being about his own journey. These questions are nothing. This is all organic. So if a doctor is really aware of how he's operating, and he is a genius in the medical field, and even he's aware of how he's acting and how it can doesn't benefit his family and his business from how he's outputting, sometimes we have to drop the ego and realise that we are no different to a doctor, and that it is also affecting you in that exact same way, but only the man in the mirror can change that. So coming back to by the way, thank you, brother, for being so open and honest. We're going to do another podcast, me and you. But regarding back to the testing, so these men understand why it will benefit them. So why else for the entrepreneurial man will this test be so beneficial, and why is it so required for their future health and performance?
So I think the main things are you need to get your body into a position where it is going to be, if you want to be high performance, it's even in business, you need to get you kind of want your body to be as healthy as possible, really. So if you have, say, high visceral fat, your energy levels are going to be lower. So if your energy levels are lower, you're not going to be able to do all the things that you want to do. We've talked about, obviously, in the long term about disease, but in the short term, it's just not going to be great for you. If your muscle mass is low, it's going to affect, you're more likely to suffer injuries. You might get more likely to get back pain, for example. If you want to be working your muscles regularly, getting those full body kind of workouts in, so that when you are spending long time at your desk, kind of at the laptop working, it is obviously going to have a negative impact, but you then get to counter that because you're in the gym. And by having tests like this, you can actually see, where do I sit? Where is my muscle mass compared to everyone else? Where is my fat compared to everyone else? Where's my bone density compared to everyone else? Bone density is one of those things that we often don't think about until you've got older and you've fallen over and you break a bone and you're like, oh wow, I didn't even know. Because you just don't know it until you break a bone. You just don't know that you have low bone density. So it's more about just making sure that your health and the body composition is in that state that you need it to be, so that you can go on and spend the next 10, 20 years, 30 years achieving what you want to achieve. Be that business, be that family, or just anything within life, really.
So many entrepreneurs come to me and say, another business coach, they fell off after 2 weeks. Another PT, they fell off after 2 weeks. All these genetic plans they keep investing in just aren't working. That's where my passion comes from, individualising everything and testing the man specifically. Do you agree that the way health, wellness is going, that we do need individual testing on a biological level to give these people the right care for longevity and performance?
I think the reality is we've all got different lives. So you've said your background is a professional athlete. So, you have a very different approach.
Well, I weren't that good. I was good at one point.
But you've got a very different approach. So if there's no point giving the same advice to you that you would give to me. And if you come in and you've been in the gym 4 days a week for the last 5 years and I haven't, then there's no point us having the same advice, is it? So you do, I think, in moving towards personalised, you see it in medicine in general, there is a big push towards personalised medicine. It's just really hard to do because it takes more, it's a lot easier to give generic advice that you can give to everyone. But if you want to get the best outcomes, you kind of need that personalised touch where it's like, actually, okay, well, what is your life like? It's all well and good saying go to the gym 3 days a week, but if you're working 100 hours a week, how are you going to do that? So it's like, well, actually, maybe we need to come up with a more bespoke strategy that you can, like you said, well, maybe you just need to stop going up the lift. If you're on the 30th floor of the thing, why don't you go up the stairs? So you're still going to get to work. It sounds obvious, but like, I think if you don't have that personalized touch, like, and with this, it's like some people are slim but have high visceral fat. Some people have high body fat percentage but low visceral fat. Some people have. There's no point giving someone say you want to lose weight. You kind of have to tailor it to what position they're currently in and what they want to try and achieve. So, and then fit it around their lifestyle. So if they like cooking, then that's great. If they don't like cooking, then you can't give them advice around cook this meal because it's not realistic. It's just not going to happen, is it? You need that individual look at your life as a whole, and then let's come up with a plan that's going to get you to where you want to be in a way that you can actually follow.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what's a message to men in business who haven't got their health checked, who are wondering if they should or they shouldn't go through this sort of individual testing, but they have been in business for a very long time, stress, performance, family life, all of it?
I would say it's easy to assume that your body, when you were 20, you could do whatever you wanted to your body and you'd wake up the next day and you were fine. It's easy to just assume that you're 30, you're 40, you're 50 now and that's still the case. But the reality is with a lot of these diseases is you don't know that you're unwell until the disease hits you. But you can potentially find out that disease is coming decades in advance. So when we talk about the type of testing we do, it's not, there's lots of different things that you can do, like what we do is just one part of that. So it's just kind of like making sure that you are prioritizing your health to ensure that you've not missed things, I guess, and not kind of kidding yourself that you are someone who can just push hard forever. You're not a machine. If you haven't slept well for 20 years, it will have taken its toll. If you haven't eaten well for 20 years, you might look okay, but actually it will have taken its toll. And you've just got to be realistic with yourself and actually let's find out what my current position is. Has it taken a toll? How much of a toll? What do I need to do to get myself back into that kind of healthy position?
So, men, there you have it. Thank you so much for the doc. And I think if you are listening to this, especially with the combination of Dr. Ed and Dr. Alex, that's why they're both here in combination to get the biggest picture possible of what's going on for you on an individual level. And unfortunately, brothers, without us being nicey 24/7, as a man in business, you will know the invoice has to arrive. And with your health, it might be a little bit too late.
Well, that's what we're trying to avoid, isn't it?
There we go. So that's why we're here. Thank you.